What's the difference between a CV and a resume? Seems like a very basic question, but it's a good place, I think, for us to begin, and it'll also allow us to talk a little bit about the kinds of decisions one has to make for moving off out of the program and into either the academic market or the non-academic market. I mean, obviously, we've already made the distinction by suggesting that we're going to be looking at two very different documents. The CV goes with academic work. The resume tends to go with non-academic work. But I think we also need to substantiate this difference a little bit in order to compare the two different kinds of documents and to talk about what the different tracks represent. A CV is short for curriculum vitae, which is Latin. It basically means a record of your life. It emphasizes academic achievement, scholarly potential. It refers to the document, especially in North America, that is used to apply for academic positions. So if you're applying for an academic position, you submit a curriculum vitae. You don't submit a resume. And obviously enough, a resume is the document that you submit for non-academic positions, usually in industry, government, consulting, non-governmental organizations, and some teaching positions, which is sort of a gray area that might come up in the question period for us. The difference between a CV and a resume substantively is whereas a resume emphasizes academic achievement, the resume emphasizes transferable skills, work experiences, and work-related accomplishments. We've sort of charted out this difference a little bit, and this might actually be worth talking about just for a few minutes. It's not so much that CVs and resumes contain radically different information. I mean, you are who you are, and you're trying to convince an employer to hire you in both situations. But what they do is they present the information, and they therefore perform you in quite different ways. And I want to just take a few minutes using this chart to substantiate what I mean by performing you, perhaps generically in these different ways. As you can see by our handy illustration here, non-academic positions tend to involve a different kind of social performance. They tend to involve a different kind of mindset from academic ones. The way I'm putting it is like this. Non-academic positions, and I'm totally generalizing here for the sake of argument, but nevertheless, one tends to be in a position of working for an existing institution and for some greater goal that that institution is after. In the corporate world, you're after one thing, and that is to make more money than anybody else. In consulting and professional work, you are helping people to improve their business or infrastructure or institution, often with the same aim of having them make a lot of money. And in colleges and government, you are part of a large bureaucracy, the aim of which is to keep its own wheels turning, and to help other people to do the same thing, of maintain that structure and that institution. Often, again, with the larger aim, back to business of making everybody a lot of money or making everybody happy or legal or what have you. So that's that part of non-academic work. In academic work, well, let me say one more thing here. Individual merit in the non-academic world, at least for the sake of the document, is really going to be measured by your ability to do what is expected of you in that position. By that I mean how much money you can bring in, how well you can help other people to bring in more money or to make themselves better in the private sector, how well you can show other people and teach other people to do the same thing. And this is why the emphasis is on transferable skills, because the emphasis is not necessarily on what you as an individual do, but the emphasis is on how effectively you do what the institution needs you to do, if that makes sense. In academia, by contrast, the emphasis is not so much on your skills or your ability to help an institution, but your ability to garner prestige for yourself, and thus for the institution of which you are a part. We might say that a university or an academic institution tends to be defined by the composite prestige that its individual researchers and teachers have gathered. And therefore, the emphasis in a CV is going to be on your achievement, what you have accomplished, what you have produced, what you have done that is unique to you within your field that's going to garner that kind of prestige. And as a result, whereas individual merit in the case of the resume or of non-academic work tends to be measured in terms of how effectively you perform the skills that are expected of you within the institution, individual merit in the case of academic work is going to be measured more in terms of how much you have accomplished in terms of establishing your prestige and profile, how many publications you have, the kinds of courses that you've taught, the kind of service you've done, how often your work is cited or reviewed, how many awards you've received, how many honors you've garnered, how much grant money you've been able to accrue, and so on. So the purpose of a CV, therefore, unlike a resume, is to emphasize, again, the building of these achievements. Does that seem like a reasonable way of clarifying?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Good. I worked hard on that. I'll put it down on my CV. Anyway.